The scriptures make it abundantly clear to go and make disciples, right? And to go into the ends of the earth. It doesn't say just if you're a pastor. Some of the greatest missionaries ever were never called missionaries. Some of them are teachers that are praying over their students. Some of them are business owners who give and fund things to impact their city so that people can see the love of God. Every single person who considers themselves a follower of Jesus is called to be missional, no matter what they do. The way that I would have defined church when I was a kid, boring, not fun, a lot of rules, and fake, if you want me to be honest. My parents got divorced when I was 5 or 6, and my whole life, every single year of my childhood, I lived in a different place. And so I got exposed to a lot of people and a lot of different homes, what a family would look like, or maybe what it was supposed to look like.
My mom had me when she was 17, and she and my dad were not married at the time. They ended up getting married, but when I was 2, they divorced. And I never really knew like a wholesome home. I had a brother who was 7 years younger than me, and there were a lot of times where I really just helped raise him. My mom was my best friend growing up, even through all the ups and downs. I probably shared things with her that she didn't really even want to know, but she was my person. And so I stuck close with her up until I was 18, and it was time to go to school, and I was ready to go. And so I did. I went away. I went to Gainesville, and at that point, I think I kind of experienced freedom for the first time. I was able to make my own decisions and be responsible solely for me.
And then when someone asks you to do something, remember, you don't owe them an explanation.
Protect that.
You can say no, and you can say, I've got another commitment.
I had a decent relationship with Jesus, but then going into college, that just kind of fell by the wayside because, you go into an unfamiliar area, you walk away from your friends, your accountability, started partying, started kind of just living that typical college lifestyle, and that kind of just became life for me for the next few years.
At this point, I had moved out of my home, and I was living with a friend as a 15-year-old, sleeping on his couch. And this guy, my friend, invited me. He's like, man, you need to go with me on this youth event, because he didn't want to go alone. I had zero desire to go, but then he named off like 3 or 4 girls from school that were going. I was like, I think I can go. The last session of this youth event on a Saturday evening in Tampa, Florida, I was really exposed to the presence of God. And there was a shift in my heart in that moment to know that God was real. And I didn't believe that he didn't exist any longer. I knew something larger than life showed up in the room. However, I went back home and just jumped back into the mess that I was. And almost a year later, to the date, it was February of 1999, I overdosed on drugs and was literally dying in a bathtub, and was in and out of consciousness. And my friends put me in a cold shower because my body temperature was raising so high, my brain was frying. Literally, that's what was happening. I was dying. And I knew I was out of control when they put me in the cold water, because I came to enough to realize, like, I can't stop whatever's happening to me right now. I called out naked, almost 16 years old, naked, in front of my friends in a bathtub, called out to Jesus right there, and told him, man, if you're real, now would be a really good time to show up. And he did. And I didn't know what to do next. And so my friend that took me to that youth event, I called him and told him what happened. And he said, hey, this is going down in Tampa again this weekend. You need to be there. And I was like, that's exactly where I need to be.
Well, I ended up leaving Gainesville. I came home for about 3 or 4 months. I knew I wanted to be a teacher. So I actually applied and was accepted at Georgia Southern University. And I was there for about a year. And it was probably the hardest year of my life. I made a lot of mistakes. I became a person I didn't recognize anymore.
I put myself around people that I genuinely thought loved me and cared about me, but they just weren't good people. And so because of that, I got involved with things that I shouldn't get involved with. And man, I had family members follow me. Specifically, my sister followed me right into that. And then ultimately it ended up, like drugs ended up taking my sister's life.
God taught me a lot through that season, but it's not a season that I look back on and I'm proud of, or a season that I really even bring up in conversations. But I was out one night and don't remember how I got home. Woke up the next morning in tears, told God that I knew I was in a place that I was never supposed to be, and that I had completely walked out from under his covering. And so I reached out to my nanny, actually, who is my mom's mom. My mom passed away in 2010. And I think part of my experience in Georgia was really me walking through that grieving process and that process of really like figuring life out. And so my nanny and her 2 sisters drove up to Georgia Southern, helped me pack from my sorority house and loaded me up, and we came home. I enrolled in UNF, I graduated from UNF, and I got connected to the local church again.
I went and dropped out of school and got my GED at the local community college and signed up for a ministry school that event in Tampa hosted and had. Got accepted into it and went to it. And when I got there, I'm 18 years old when I get there. Man, it was tough because you had to submit to authority. And how do you get an 18-year-old to submit to authority when he's never had an authority to submit to? When he's 12 and didn't have curfews, when he was 13 and he was running the streets, when he was 15 and probably made more money than most people's parents. And 8 months later, I found myself, as a 19-year-old kid in the back of a cop car for trafficking 1/2 kilo of cocaine.
I don't know if you can see it, but that is me in 2002. I know it's hard to believe, right? But you could see the utter devastation in my face in the darkness right there. Just got picked up by the cops with 1/2 kilo of cocaine down in my wind pants. It was one of the most shameful moments of my life.
I've been told by a pastor that I admired that the idea of ministry was off of my life now, and because I had failed, almost like I was disqualified. And I believed that because I didn't know any better. Well, maybe if I go to college and get a degree, maybe a bachelor's or some kind of degree will offset a felony, right? So it's almost like I could go get a job and be like, hey, yeah, I have this criminal history, but look what I did after that, So I called a man that I knew loved Jesus and told him what was going on, and he lived in Tennessee. And that man said, pack your bags right now and move. Come up here. You can stay with my family. And I landed with a family who loved me like I was their own and barely knew me in my early 20s and helped me get myself into school again. And so I found a school that worked for me, and it was in Minnesota. So when I went to Minnesota, man, I got a degree, and I busted my tail to play football, and I felt 2 major things. Man, I can't really go back to ministry, but anything I do can become ministry. I think I'm gonna coach college football. So I was going to try to figure out a way to do that. But also the family that took me in Tennessee had moved back to Jacksonville area, planted a church, and he gave me an opportunity to come serve at the church for a year as a paid intern, which is where I found my wife. And so the place that I left and said I was never coming back to, God brought me back there.
The church where I was attending at the time, I actually had also started working part-time. Jason was away at college, but he would come home and he would intern in the church. And so we met at the church. I knew him through people in the church, through my family.
I worked for a guy who owned a paint company who happened to be my now wife's uncle. And I heard he had a niece, and I heard she was hot.
I was actually at my uncle's house one Sunday afternoon after church, and we were having lunch, and it just so happened that Jason was coming by on a Sunday to pick up his paycheck. And my uncle told me, hey, Jason's coming over. He needs to pick something up. And I was like, okay. So he comes over, and I'm not kidding. He walks up in his cut-off white t-shirt, his cargo shorts, his tall crew socks and slides, and a shaved head. Like, tattoos out, just in all his glory. And he walks in, and he's like the whitest thug like you ever did see. And he's asking about, work and the plan for the week and all this. And I'm just sitting here taking it all in over my mac and cheese. And I'm like, okay. So anyway, he gets what he needs and he walks out, and we keep eating. And then my uncle's like, so what did you think about Jason? I was like, I didn't think anything about Jason.
I hear she wasn't really interested, so it's all good. But I knew I couldn't pursue her because I was going back to college, so it was like a waste of time. But when I came back from college, she was there, and she was at the church that I was serving at, and she was single.
I had purchased my first house, and it needed to be painted. My uncle owns a painting company. Jason will work, like I said, part-time for him. So they came in to paint. They weren't able to finish one day. And I was actually having my housewarming party that weekend, so it had to be done.
So I got sent back to finish. I actually offered to come back to finish. And she offered Chick-fil-A in payment.
He came back over. I ended up grabbing dinner, and we sat and we talked. And we must have talked until midnight that night. And when he left, like we laughed, we cried. I shared things with him that I hadn't really opened up and shared in a long time.
And I went home that night, and when I laid down, I couldn't sleep because I just kept tossing and turning, thinking, man, if I don't make this girl my wife, I'd be an absolute idiot. And so I prayed, and just kind of came to the conclusion with the Father. I was like, this is the one, like, let's go.
By Thanksgiving, we were dating, and I remember we were driving across the bridge coming from Fernandina into Yulee, and he looked at me and he was like, I need to tell you something. And I was like, okay. And he said, do you have your big girl panties on? And I said, what? He's like, I think I love you. And I remember thinking, oh, that was smooth. Okay. I mean, I love you too.
We got engaged after 2 months, got married in 2 years. And now we got 4 kids. 3 here, 1 on the way.
We had JC in August of 2013. Then came Maylee in 2015. And then Liam in April of 2018. And then now we have our 4th on the way, and I'm due November of 2021.
We've got the highlighted stuff if you need to mention any of it.
You need it? I'll take it.
So starting a church is never something we said we wanted to do. We both had worked in ministry. We'd been heavily involved in ministry. We had seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. Definitely never wanted to be lead pastors. I knew I wanted to be in ministry. I knew we were called to ministry, but we wanted to do something fun. And pastoring a church didn't seem fun.
I was serving in youth ministry for a nonprofit in the neighborhood, literally, that I grew up in. And really tough kids. We got an invitation from a pastor to help plant a church in that same community. And when we said yes to it, I began mingling with other pastors in the city. And in conversations with pastors in the city, they were like, hey, where's your church? And I told them, man, it's on the north side, it's in Ocean Way. And one guy was like, you plant a church there? I was like, yeah. He said, man, when I was going to plant my church, my advisory board told me you should plant on Northside. It needs a thriving, life-giving church. And I told him, no way, man, that place is the armpit of Jacksonville. So we planted in another area in the city. And we love the armpit of Jacksonville. And when I say we, it's not just me. My wife loves it too.
So I actually moved to the north side of Jacksonville before Jason and I started dating. I had gotten a teaching position in Jacksonville, but in another area, actually off of Atlantic Boulevard, which was also another area where a lot of low socioeconomic level housing developments, and the school I taught at was a Title I school, and a lot of need. The kids there were so many needs. But I really started to have a heart for Jacksonville because of teaching, because I got to know the kids. And funny enough, when we started the church, some of those same families came. And when we would do outreach, we would go to those same areas where a lot of my students lived.
This is an area that we really like to go to just to love on these people and to really make sure that they know that we're here for them no matter what it is that they need. We like to come in here, walk through, pray with all these people, and just kind of share with them that Jesus loves them where they're at no matter what. We'll come out here and invite them to our turkey outreach to where they can come and get turkeys. We come and bless the kids in this area just with some presents and really just like to love on the community, let them know that we're here. I think sometimes people who aren't used to a church being, just no strings attached, we want to love you. It seems like there's an ulterior motive when there's definitely not here. We just want to show the love of Jesus by, loving on his people the same exact way that he would if he was here right now.
I felt something shift in my heart where I fell in love with this school. The school that I tried to run away from all the time, I love. So money into. I've driven up there many days, mornings, nights, just to pray and walk around. I've spent more hours in that school pastoring people than I ever did going to class. And I think God's got a unique way of redeeming what we run from.
It's all right. Y'all know where Garden Valley is? Exactly. You don't know where it is. The middle of nowhere.
This is real pastoring over here, moving people's poop around. I often get labeled as an extrovert, I guess because I'm a pastor and I communicate. But man, I really think I'm like an introverted extrovert. So I enjoy my personal space, and this place helps me get it. It really does. Before, we lived right across the street from where the church meets, and had people in the congregation lived in our neighborhood, and that was great. Man, people just stop by. People will just stop by on you. It's a little harder to stop by out here. We don't want to be seen as the pastors who just show up and preach and then are never with the people. we realize not everybody can have complete accessibility to us. However, we want to be with people as much as possible.
Yes.
And if Ben comes up, do you want to recap or do you want Jenna to recap?
Jenna can take it.
I feel like we're in the middle of an area where no matter what way you turn, there are needs that can be met. And we jump at the opportunity to do that.
I don't really have to do research to know what this area is about. I've lived in it. I know what it's about. I know the issues with meth and drugs. I know the issues with prostitution at the airport area and on Dunn Avenue, right? I know that I-95 for many years has been like a racial divide. Like on one side is predominantly African-American communities, on the other side is predominantly white communities. I already understand all that, and I already see how the Lord over the past 10 years has been shaking that up and mixing it up.
There's something about going out into the crowd and going out into the places that they call home and loving on them right where they are, that reminds them you don't have to be anything other than what you are, who you are, where you are. Like, there's no judgment, there's no shame, there's no expectations. You don't have to have yourself together before you're welcomed in.
I said, man, we're gonna take like an old bread truck and we're gonna turn it into a missions mobile, and we're gonna use it, we're gonna put a generator on it so it's got power, and we can just kind of be limitless in how we engage a community.
Good morning, how are you? Come grab soda and Pop-Tarts. Probably start your day.
When I read the Gospels, I always see Jesus on the move, going through the crowds, right? He's always going to the people. Like I very rarely ever see Jesus saying, hey, you know, like, I'll be at this location, everybody meet me here. He just stayed on the move going to people, right? And when he got to him, he said, come to me, right? I just feel like the church should be on the move. The church should be involved in their city and with no strings attached. We made it a point when we started this church. We're going to love the people in our city with zero strings attached, right? We're not gonna be like, hey, we'll do this for you if you do this. We just do it, and then we keep it moving with an invitation. If you'd like to follow and be a part of the church family, we'd love to have you. And so we built the Hope Trucks so that we made sure that we stayed involved in our city and kept going to people. And honestly, it's a lot of fun. It's missions. It's teaching people how to do local missions. And so we go into communities, we deliver thousands of dollars of Christmas toys out and stuff like that. And man, I watch God move. We pray for people in their homes. We believe for miracle signs and wonders. We see people literally healed on their front doorstep. We see people get saved in the parking lot of their apartment complex. Like, the altar is not just in the church. It's wherever the presence of God is. And so the Hope Truck literally is just a ninja attack on our city with love. And they said, man, why do you do this? Man, we do this because God loves us. And we want you to know that the local church loves you, and because we're the expression of his love in this city. And so we don't ever, in the life of this church, ever want to be a church that sits on the front door of the church and say, will you come to us? Jesus never did that. He always went to the people. Therefore, if he's the model, we follow the model. We're always going to go to the people and serve them.
Whether it's registering people, whether it's handing out the turkeys, whether it's walking them to the car, whatever that is, don't take it lightly. Know that each of you make up the body, and the body doesn't function the way it's supposed to function if all the parts aren't working together.
I know the impact that my mother had on me. And I know that with us being a part of the youth and being more involved in their lives, and with SCU being involved in their lives, I want to be that person for them that my mother was to me when she could be. Y'all, it doesn't even have to always be this like powerful scripture that just knocks you upside your head. Like, it can literally be something as simple as, for God so loved the world, and that's what you share, right? You need the ability to be vulnerable and transparent with somebody who you know isn't going to judge you, who isn't going to think less of you in a certain situation, but also who isn't going to coddle you when you need to be redirected and you need to hear truth and love. And I think that the only way you can be that person to somebody is to make a significant investment. And for us, that investment is being in the crowd and spending time with them and loving them and walking them through their darkest days and reminding them that God's called them to something greater, that He has a purpose for their life. And even when they can't see it, we both have been through seasons where we didn't see it in ourselves, and some of the people closest to us didn't see it. But we had those people speaking life over us and reminding us that there was more, and reminding us that our mistakes don't disqualify us. They may derail us for a moment, but having those voices that can get you back on track, and the voices that can remind you, hey, you're loved, you're seen, you're appreciated, but you're wrong. You know, I think we all need to have the maturity to be able to be called out and called up, but by someone who we know loves us and someone who we know is really in our corner, and not just lip service, but who shows it.
We've made it a priority to be involved with our youth and our college-age students because we want to really raise them up, and we want to train them so that they can become spiritual mothers and fathers as well. We put a mandate on them. If this church is your home, you've got to be okay with methods that reach younger people, and you got to be okay with us putting pressure on you to spiritually lead as a mother, father to people in our church. It's loving God first and understanding how much He loves you changes how you see yourself. If it changes how you see yourself, it'll change how you see your neighbor and what you're willing to do for them, how you're willing to serve them, how you're willing to love them. And at the end of the day, man, that's how you raise up spiritual mothers and fathers, is teaching them to love God and teaching them to love people so that the church can get younger, man. And that like we want them, because there's a bunch of spiritual orphans in our city.
Give me some love.
Thanks, you daddy.
You ready? Come on.
I so appreciate the role of a pastor, and I so recognize and respect the responsibilities that come with that. But you don't have to be a pastor to love people. You don't have to be a pastor to remind them that there's a purpose on their life and that they are called and set apart.
I think it's important for the church to realize that you don't have to invite people on Sunday morning for people to get saved. It can be at the workplace. It can be at the ball field. It can be in the grocery store, at the gas station. It doesn't have to be Sunday morning. The greatest revival, the end times revival that's on the way, it's not going to happen on Sunday mornings. It's going to happen in the streets with the church being the church. I don't feel called to take over a city. I just feel called to win what's right in front of me every single day. There's plenty of big churches in Jacksonville. We have a desire to be a healthy church that is marked by authenticity. I mean, and that doesn't mean that big churches aren't real and they aren't authentic. I don't want to lose our authenticity trying to become something that God hasn't called us to be. And He's called us to be a church on the north side of Jacksonville right now. And so we're going to freaking crush the north side of Jacksonville.
I've seen a lot of good come out of the north side. I see good come out of the north side every single Sunday when we see people who come down and they give their life to Jesus, and their hearts are changed and their lives look radically different, and they can stand before the congregation and they can testify to the goodness and the grace and the mercy and the provision that God has extended over their lives that they don't deserve. Every time we see someone baptized and they come up new and they come up excited, every time kids give their life to Jesus during a lesson in kids ministry, you know, I see a lot of good that comes out of Jacksonville, and I don't see that good stopping anytime soon.